Welcome back, loyal listeners, to the Chronicle Sports' third men's basketball podcast. I'm Andrew Beaton alongside Tom Gieryn.
Absolutely. And we're here to talk about the Maui Invitational, which is coming up over the next 3 days. There'll be games played Monday, Tuesday, and then the final will be Wednesday. And Duke will play all 3 of those days, regardless of whether they win or lose, because there will be a consolation bracket. So we start by talking about what we've seen from Duke over the course of its first 4 games. I think the big theme has been team still trying to figure out what its identity is and who's going to play what kind of roles.
And I think 4-0, it's great, but that is not an indication of this team being completely in perfect shape right now. They have things to work on, even though they squeaked out another win against Davidson, this weekend. That 82-69 win, it's a bigger margin than it played throughout. Davidson was in it. They were leading after the first half. And with those 82 points, Duke only had 10 assists. They did not distribute the ball on the offensive end, pass it cleanly the way you want to see them do it.
Well, absolutely, especially because Davidson is not a great team this year. They're traditionally a good upstart mid-major, but this year they're just really lacking in talent. I think a lot of the issues they're going to have on the distribution end have to do with who they're playing at point guard, and I don't think they really have a clear answer to that question. Although I think in the late game, Quinn Cook only played 12 minutes in the game, 10 of those in the second half. But I was really impressed with his play late in the game, and I sort of hope he sees more minutes at the point in Maui.
I think you're completely on point there. His offense has been good, and he hasn't been particularly dynamic, but he makes smart decisions with the ball, and he's really going out there with that perimeter defense that you don't see from some of the other guards. Andre Dawkins has been a consistent threat from deep on offense this year, but he doesn't bring the on-the-ball defense that either Tyler Thornton or Quinn Cook bring.
Absolutely, and there's been... And obviously the talent that people have been talking about coming into the season is all in the backcourt, but where we've seen a lot of the production has been actually in the front court. Both Plumlee brothers really putting up strong performances so far this season. Mason especially shooting the ball very well, converting on a lot of his opportunities. Ryan Kelly has been showing some flashes too underneath.
Yeah, Mason with 16 points, 13 rebounds against. If Davidson has a strength, it is their front court. Jake Cohen and Damon Brooks are pretty decent front court players. And then Mason gets 16 and 13. But I think you bring up a good point with Kelly, who, coming off the bench in the first 3 games, finally got a start against Davidson. He adds another dimension to the offense. He can shoot from outside, and if they're playing a smaller lineup, he's a little more athletic.
Well, he's going to really help them stretch the defenses. And the first team in Maui that they'll face, hoping that Kelly comes through strong, will be the Volunteers of Tennessee. Definitely. An interesting team, losing 4 starters from last year, 2 to graduation and 2 to the NBA as early entries. Also lost their coach, Bruce Pearl, who left with some recruiting violation issues. And he was replaced by Kiwanzo Martin, who comes from Missouri State. And they'll be an interesting opponent for Duke.
I agree, and they're going to be an interesting opponent, but it should be another game that Duke goes in there and expects to win, Tom. But the interesting thing about this tournament is that's the only game you can really say this about. It's not, for an early season tournament, it is a competitive field.
For sure. And Tennessee's very inexperienced, losing 4 starters. They've got 2 sophomores who have stepped into the starting lineup and been productive. But you're absolutely right that the Duke should be the clear favorite in that game. But that's not so clear once they move on to the second round, where they'll play the winner of what should be a very good game in Memphis against Michigan.
And we were talking about this before, actually, and it's interesting because you see Memphis as the clear favorite in the game, and they are ranked higher, and they are a more talented team, but Michigan is not a team I'd want to face. They gave Duke a run last year in the tournament, had a shot with just seconds left.
Absolutely. John Beilein is a great coach, and he'll have them well coached. I do think really Tim Hardaway is really their only weapon, and I'm a really big fan of a Memphis team that's extremely athletic. Absolutely destroyed Belmont, who only beat Duke who Duke was only able to beat by 1, and they really shot well in that game. And then the bottom half of the bracket as well is full of some teams that have been good historically. UCLA has tons of talent. But hasn't been very successful so far this season.
I know. UCLA 0-2, but again, that's not a team that if I'm Coach Krzyzewski, I'm eager to face, because regardless of the issues they've had, they really bring a top level of talent to this ballgame, and they're just, regardless of their issues, I wouldn't want to play them.
And they should have an easy first-round game against Chaminade, who's the local team who hosts the tournament. But then in the 4th game in the first round, in the bottom half of the bracket, is obviously a very good Kansas team. who will play Georgetown. Shouldn't have too much trouble with Georgetown, but Kansas is a big threat to win this whole tournament.
Yeah, Kansas, Georgetown, another two top conference teams. Georgetown, one of their down years, not in the early season polls, but Kansas, like every year, competitive. Bill Self, great coach. Not who I want to be facing.
And they're a little bit underrated this year. I think they've got plenty of talent on that roster. So with that, we've been through the 8 teams who will be in the Maui Invitational field. It's definitely going to be an interesting tournament. Good early season test for the Blue Devils. Thanks everybody for watching today with the Chronicles Basketball Beat Writer podcasts, and we'll be back post tournament with some more analysis for you.